Welcome into Valley News Now. I'm Devin Fry, joined by First Alert Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Russ Thomas on the desk. I have a friend in here today.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
It's always good when I don't have to be alone back here. You guys don't know this, but it's a dark and scary room back here, and I get lonely sometimes.
You're right. In fact, someone's walking around back there. I can't even see. It's making me nervous.
Who is that?
That's
we'll call security on that later. As you might be able to see by the backdrop here, a little bit of a different vibe today. We've been gathering your questions all morning for what we want to ask the weather team. Yeah. Russ, are you nervous about getting put on the spot by any of these questions?
No, I don't think so. I think there's one here in particular which I'm excited to answer.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I'm glad. Let's keep that same energy going as we go through this here. Right. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. I'm going to take our questions to full screen because we have those kind of fancy capabilities on this desk. First question takes us to Amanda Wagner, who asked a pretty simple question, but it's really timely right now. Yes. Caribou Coffee just announced their fall lineup, and so the people want to know, what's the climate outlook for this fall? Okay,
now the good news is for you is that because I'm a meteorologist, what I do is I take a short answer and I make it longer.
Nice.
No, I'm just, no. I will say this, as we head into this fall, I'll kind of give you the projection of, unfortunately, the funny thing about this question is every month the Climate Prediction Center comes out and they put kind of a 3-month forecast out. Okay. The last one came out July 17th. The next one comes out tomorrow. So this information is just a little over a month old. However, that being said, I can tell you give you my thoughts, and we'll go from there. According to Climate Prediction Center, again, back from mid-July, they're calling for a little warmer for August, September, and October. That's kind of the lean is warmer than normal, also drier than normal. Again, update for that tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see what it says. Kind of what leads into this and what we typically see during the fall is we've got 3 main weather patterns. 2 of them, most people have heard of them. One is really not as much discussed because it's kind of that average. You've got La Nina, which is what typically is right, which typically leads to our cooler, wetter, especially late fall and winter. Normally. El Nino, which we had a couple of years ago, and we had our driest and one of our warmest winters ever, that was a strong El Nino. What we have this year is called INSO-neutral, and basically all that means is it's really not leaning either direction. Now, the interesting thing when we have these INSO-neutral conditions is that's usually when we see the most fluctuation. So in other words, we go a little bit from more of like warmer, cooler, back and forth as opposed to having more of a steady pattern, and that goes for both temperatures and precipitation. So my outlook would be, I think overall, generally speaking, we're going to be a little bit warmer than normal these first couple of months, September, October. I think in November, we'll start to see signs of maybe at least the opportunity is going to be there for some colder dips. Not that it won't happen at all in September or October, but I think really in particular, we'll transition from what might be slightly warmer than normal to getting down a little bit below the norm. As far as precipitation goes, it really is, because what happens when you get INSO-neutral is you get more fluctuations in the jet stream. So what that means, as opposed to seeing like a 30-day period where it barely rains, or a 30-day window where it's a lot of rain, in this case it does fluctuate. So again, I think about average precipitation for this time of year, I think we start the winter, September, October, I say winter, fall, a little above norm temperature-wise, and then we take a little bit of a dip there in November.
Does it make your job a little bit, like you mentioned that it's literally right down the middle, could go either way with that outlook. Does that make your job a little bit more difficult? Or?
Well, I don't, you know, I forecast kind of the more week to week, right, as opposed to climate. So doesn't really make it difficult on the day-to-day, but if I'm looking ahead like I'm explaining this answer right now, it just makes it a little more difficult to give you a definitive answer on that. But I like, you know, I like the challenge. I like to always, I'm more of a person just because of what I do. You like a little more action, you like a little more kind of, instead of saying it's going to be this for the next 11 days period, kind of a little back and forth, I think is always more exciting.
I think everybody would probably agree with that one.
Yes.
Let's move on to our next question. This one is from Michael Schaafstal. Michael, I'd like to apologize first of all for what I did to your last name there. Hopefully it was close. Russ, how hot did it get? And how much rainfall did Fargo get as well? He didn't mention a specific time period, so I'll let you use your discretion for that one.
No, that's fine. And actually, when I saw this question, this one I wrote a couple numbers down. The reason I did that is because there wasn't a time frame. So I'm kind of making the assumption. What I did is I went back to May all the way through today.
Nice.
As a general rule, we have been drier than normal, and we've been a little bit cooler than normal. However, there are always exceptions. One thing that's been interesting, we had 4 days in May where we hit the 90s. We had we had 4 95.
I felt every single one of those days. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's good. Right in the middle of May, I think it was the 11th through the 14th, we had a 95, 95, 94, 93. And we're thinking to ourselves, oh man, does this mean, is this a precursor? Since that day, since May 14th, we've had a total in what's a little over 3 months, 3 additional days in the 90s. So that was July 4th was actually the hottest day, 95 degrees.
It's very patriotic.
But, yes, exactly. By and large, though, it has been a little bit cooler, and it has been a little bit drier. I will say, and this is where I wrote things down here because I'm kind of going back a couple days.
A little cheat sheet. The
1 month where we were wetter, and actually, I want to apologize because it's actually 2 months now where we've been wetter. June, a little bit wetter than normal. We had a little over about 4.5 inches, which typically is our wettest month. Actually, what's interesting is August, which I forgot about, which is where we're in.
We're in August.
We actually had a window of about 5 days from 6 days from the 3rd through the 8th, where we got close to about 3.25 inches of rain, which is in that 6-day window is 25% of what we've seen since the beginning of May.
Wow.
So we saw that in a quick window. We've already seen 3.31 inches in Fargo of rain. The average so far for the month of August, August. So 3.31 inches so far in August. The normal is 1.5 inches. So as we get to August 20th. So again, a lot more rain than normal.
What's the summer been like for you guys so far? Because it's been, like you mentioned, like just kind of some of the weirdness you're getting in some of these spots, like August right now where it's at. Just kind of, what's it been like for you guys kind of trying to navigate this summer?
I'll tell you what's been interesting and at times tough is how many days we've had severe weather, and it's been really spread out. So good question there is, this year, very good. The way the jet stream, and I get this question out a lot, probably more so the last couple of months, and than any other question when people see him out about us. Man, it feels like it's been so active, and it has. This particular summer, the way the jet stream is set up, and it's really been kind of consistent. Usually we have kind of fluctuations where we may get a couple weeks where it's dry, then we'll get kind of a stormy week or two. It has pretty much been, we'll get maybe 2 or 3 days where it's dry, then the next set of storms, and just about every time we've had the chance for storms, it has come with some severe storms.
Yeah.
Jet stream, just where it's been located, typically it's been right on top of us, so these waves of energy which come from way out in the Pacific, and they're pretty much always consistently like think about a conveyor belt, right? Storms moving, but the jet stream's not always on top of this, so usually it's a little bit farther south, so typically we're a little bit dry. We're not quite as stormy, but even here in August, I mean, what was it, Monday night, we had a couple severe storms around the region, and tomorrow brings another opportunity. So it's not only has it been frequent, but it's been more consistent over a longer period. Usually by mid to late August, things are slowing down, and I think it will, but tomorrow could be another stormy day.
That's such a perfect segue. So I did want to ask this question. This actually just came into our Facebook Live. And again, I have our Facebook Live going, so if you have any more questions, I obviously didn't have time to clip this one and prepare it for you, so I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
No,
but I think you might know the answer to this. Paul wants to know, what does the forecast for rain tomorrow look like, specifically in Fargo, because it's his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Paul.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to keep the rain away.
Aw.
Will I be successful?
That's so sweet of you, Russ.
I know. I think what we're going to see tomorrow, Paul, depends on when you've got your plans. If you're going to be outdoors, I would say late afternoon, early evening, best window for Fargo to see rain and the chance for storms as well. I think early in the day we're good, even through early to mid-afternoon, we get that shot in Fargo. We have a cold front moving through, and it's working its way like they usually do from northwest to southeast across the region. So we're kind of right in the heart of that mid-afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock through about 6 or 7, I think is the best window of time for rain and storms. Before that, after that, I think you're going to be okay. So maybe bump up, whatever you're doing, just bump up the time a little bit, or just enjoy the rain and storms mid-afternoon. I'm going to do what I can.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that.
Yes.
I think that question right there just made this whole segment worth it. Somebody wants a specific birthday forecast for Fargo specifically. Now, we're going to go to another couple of questions that I had cut up here. We're going to lump these ones together because I feel like they kind of go together. So this one's asking, do you follow the LRC, which we talked a little bit about that before. I'll let you explain what that is and kind of the models you guys use to help forecast. And I think that goes hand in hand with this question when Rob Burns asks, how do you know so much? That's a good question.
Robert Burns is an old friend of mine. First of all, he's old. Second of all, he's a friend of mine. I worked with him way back when I was in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I told him, I responded, I said, I just listen to him. He's a wealth of information. No, I'll tell you this, but if you actually want to know, I went to Florida State many, many, many years ago, got my meteorology degree, And since then, I've been doing this for about 26 years now.
That'll do it.
So it's all that accumulated
That'll
information over time. No, to get back to your other question, LRC, I find this very interesting and very timely for me because I spent, before I moved to Fargo, I spent 18, 19 years forecasting weather in Missoula, Montana, and never once heard about LRC. It's a fairly new way of forecasting, kind of a newer model that I know still getting, although I shouldn't say this because I've just kind of barely dabbled in it. When something is newer, you know, kind of just shaping up, but from what I understand, and I'll get into this a little bit more, it seems to do a good job with some of those longer range, bigger weather systems. So this is developed by, and I want to tell you this, I want to point this out, we have Flag Media, of course, our partners.
Our partners at
I've
Flag
got a
Family
good
Media.
friend, meteorologist Dean Wasaki over there.
Okay.
He really follows LRC. I think it's the one he just kind of lives by at this point. And he said it took him a little time to really be like, is this really working? Then he's jumped into it. He swears by it. So I had a little discussion with him because I was curious. Lezak recurring cycle, named after a gentleman named, I think it's Gary Lezak. And,
Sounds right.
he was-
Take your word for that one.
yeah, he's a longtime meteorologist. Was based in Kansas City. I think was on TV for years, and he's retired. So he kind of put this together. The kind of the shorter answer, because based on what Dean told me, I could talk about this a lot. I've just started kind of dabbling in it. What I've typically looked at over the course of my career is we have about 4 or 5 weather models, European, American, one we call HRRR. We've got a IBM ICAST forecast, different sort of, right. And those are the ones that I've used, and some are very consistent certain times of year. Others maybe other times of the year. LRC is one where, again, the little that I know that I've looked into it, seems to do a good job or has some pretty good accurate information for those storms, again, that are 1 month, 2 month. It's just like any weather model. Nothing is perfect, right? I mean, so it's kind of, when you get longer term, a lot of times it's more like, okay, is this really going to happen? But yeah, it seems to be, at least, you know, I say initially because it's a fairly new weather model compared to maybe some others. But that seems to be the big thing, is that longer term, it seems to be pretty accurate.
How did you land on what models you know, is it all from the years of experience that you're just kind of picking, or not picking and choosing, that's not the right word for it, but kind of figuring out which models work the best for kind of where you're at or what time of the year it is? Is it just kind of that experience factor?
Right, and also where you live. Like I said, I spent so many years forecasting. I started in Florida, went to Louisiana, and then eventually wound up in Montana. And what's interesting is a lot of people, or you may think to yourself, Missoula, Fargo, both north, both cold, period. They are completely different. Missoula sits right in the middle of like valley, mountains around, so a whole different deal. So what I did over time there, you kind of learn with the experience, with just not only the knowledge, but then you're in a place you kind of see where weather patterns work within specific locations. For me, I did. It was kind of, in other words, I would look and I'd say, okay, for the winter, European model's really working for here now. And it's usually pretty consistent year after year. During the summer, you may just completely throw a weather model out the window and go, this is just, it does such a horrible job, in particular, I think, in the mountains. Here, in moving here, and it's been almost 2 years now it's a matter of me going, okay, so now what I'm learning and looking at as I continue my journey here in Fargo is, okay, does that same weather model that worked in the winter in Missoula work in the winter in Fargo? And so it's kind of honing in on that, and it obviously, like I said, with experience, with time. I mean, there's a certain set of knowledge I certainly come in with, but it's learning those kind of nuances. Again, looking at those weather models, kind of getting some consistent knowledge down and just going from there. So I definitely feel, compared to even last year, I'm going into my 3rd winter here, even though it's only my 2nd year. And I feel like I feel like even in that time, like I have a better feel of kind of the different microclimates, the weather patterns, how things look, and the weather models to use.
Tell you what, when you move down here, it certainly doesn't give you a whole lot of time to acclimate. You got to get used to it quickly.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Russ, last question, I guess a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
I thought these ones were very fun.
Yeah.
We got, one is Kevin Rope asking, when are we going to get drying days, which, you know, we've kind of talked about some of the precipitation we've seen. And then Tim is asking for a very specific date on when we could get snow. Do we know when snow's coming? I hate to even say the word right now, so apologies to anyone who's superstitious out there, but figured I'd just throw these at you.
Yeah. The answer to Tim's question, yes.
Wow.
The answer, no.
You heard it here first.
No, I will say
Let's
this.
post that online.
I'll say 60-day guarantee. No,
That's fair.
I will say with Tim, that is a pretty typical, for Fargo in particular. Right there, mid-November is usually where we get our first snow that comes about an inch or more. Again, a little either side of that. So if you're looking at November 17th, you know, are we going to get an inch, 2, 3 inches of snow November 17th? You know, that
You
would
have
be
to tell us.
that would be the time. That would be go along with the timeline of when we typically say our first snow. So we're just going to say, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say there's a good chance.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Breaking news for you.
As far as drying days, this is much more in my wheelhouse because it's within that forecast
Yeah,
period
you know.
that I typically do, which is, 10, 11 days out. After the chance for storms tomorrow, it looks like we have at least a 10-day stretch where we're going to get very little to no rain. I'm going to go ahead and say no rain. I could see a raindrop here or there a couple days, but a lot of sunshine. It's actually going to get quite a bit cooler too this weekend. Temperatures in the 60s. I think Monday right there in the 60s to 70 as well. So a little bit of a taste of fall, but we're finally hitting a point. And it really is, I say finally, we just haven't had a good consistent period. Really throughout the summer, we've just hit a stretch of dry days for more than a week. So we're literally walking into, Kevin asked, we're literally walking into that starting Friday.
I'm just excited for a period of time with no overnight storms. I'll take some rain, but I'm tired of the overnight stuff. I have a baby now. He wakes up all the time.
No, it's okay. And I will be too with that because what that means for me, we have severe storms late and overnight. That means usually until 2 or 2:30 before Lisa Green takes over. I'm here covering
Yeah,
those,
that's
so I'll be really happy when that goes away.
And
too.
if it's bad enough, one of us is in here too. So it's,
Exactly.
I'm thrilled.
Yes.
We got one more question to throw you
Good.
at, and then we'll make you get back to work here. Someone named Summer Schnellbach asked,
Oof.
what is the best local forecast tip that you've learned from her or Lisa Green specifically?
Basically what I do is Summer will forecast, and I just look over her shoulder. No,
That's fair.
That's a great question. Summer's hit
a
me
good
with,
person to
with
copy
the
off
most
of, though.
difficult. Yeah, she's. What is the best local forecast tip that you've learned from me and Lisa? Well, because she puts me on the spot, I'm going to say Lisa is the one that's given me the best.
There you go.
And that is Lisa didn't put me on the spot to answer this question.
There we go. Lisa wins for today. Sorry, Summer, you're in the doghouse.
I would say that the way that the weather, in particular within the Red River Valley, when I think of valley, okay, again, being in Missoula for 18 years, you're in a valley, what you're looking at all sides is mountains that are about 4,000 feet above where you are.
Yep.
Okay. Here, Red River Valley, I thought that was funny. I just laughed. Haha, I can see there and there just fine. But there are different sort of measurables there. So it was so she very early on she told me about that, and I've really taken it to heart because again I did think to myself, right, but is it really a valley? And the answer is the way the weather dynamics play out.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, perfect. Well, Russ, thank you very much for making time for me. We're going to make this a weekly thing. We're going to, I'm going to keep watching every video they post. If you comment a question on it, we'll try to get it into this, and we're going to put Russ on the spot as much as we possibly can for the foreseeable future here.
I need to be held, to a standard. So you ask me the tough questions.
You need to be held, like right now, or should we? We'll turn it off and then.
Well, let's just see how more of these shows go.
That's fair. That's fair. Russ, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us on this Valley News Now digital update. I'm Devin Fry.